Welcome to the most interesting news in the world. We gotta update our banner. There it is. Welcome to the most interesting news in the world. I am your host and anchor, Connor Hill, journalist, newly found journalist. I'm not really journalizing anything. What are we talking about today? Well, what I find to be the most interesting news in the world today is Gary Douglas, the Douglas, has announced a telecall for Sunday that's in 4 days called Helping the Election of the President. How does it get any better than that? Now, who are we electing? What is the president? What's this call going to be? I don't know, but I really like it. It's got me all sorts of excited about all sorts of different things. So if you're interested, check it out at accessconsciousness.com. The cost is actually a $200 donation towards helping to elect the president. You know, Gary typically has some tricks up his sleeve, so not really tricks. Surprises. Yeah. Surprises up his sleeve, so I don't know exactly what's going to be showing up. But I do have some hints, and those have got me excited. I'm probably more excited about this presidential election now than I have been since I could vote. Wow. Huh. Wow. That's pretty cool. Mostly because I like throwing a little curveball myself. And I think we can throw a curveball in 2024. Also, on today, we'll be talking about, I was even thinking, I was having a total download for this episode. I was like, I might even run this like a new news show. So today we're going to be talking about Gary Douglas's call, helping the election of the president. We're also going to be talking about a program Dr. Dane here has coming up called Monsters of Miracles, Money, and Profit. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I love talking about money and profit because most people don't like to talk about it, which is very funny. You know, it's like, it's in the realm of, it's like pooping. Don't talk about it, but everybody does it. It's involved in everybody's lives and sex, money, sex, and pooping. Don't talk about them. Nobody knows about them. Keep them hush hush. But everybody does it. And some of them, everybody does like every day, depending on how lucky you are. Yeah. Yeah. So, welcome everyone to the most interesting news in the world. This used to be called Horsing Around. And where we're going to start today? Well, we're going to start because I didn't totally get prepared. So, I'm going to like slightly prepare myself right now with my computer. You're going to hear some tapping, tip tap roo, as I pull up some information. Because, boom. Because this show used to be called Horsing Around. And that doesn't make sense. Okay. And I apologize for my background noise. If I do have some background noise, that's my baby. I have a 5-month-old son. Talk about chaos. So I'm actually going to see if this works if I post in the comments a link to the United States Horseman. Now, it's a long article if you're interested in reading by William Bouchon, if I'm saying that correctly. And it's an article about the presidents of the United States as horsemen. Now, I don't really care what your point of view of any president you have, but what I would like you to do, if you're up for it, if you have this link that I sent that failed, no, comment failed because it has a link, is to search. Actually, I guess it's not going to let me send a link. So let's do this. This is what I searched. Google search this. Boom. Google search United States presidents that ride horses, and you should come up with this article. Now, at the same time, depending on what country you're from, you can look up whatever leaders you've had and which ones rode horses and which ones didn't. And since this show takes place mostly in Turkey, in Istanbul, and broadcasted from Istanbul on an Istanbulian network, you can look at too which presidents you've had throughout history that rode horses. Now, I do know that your beloved Ataturk was quite the horseman. And actually, if I do believe so, I believe the Turkish, maybe even in your language, has to do with riding horses. But don't quote me on that. I could search it up, but I don't really want to at the moment. So for those of you, oh man, should we go back in time? Yeah, we're going to go back in time. So if you didn't know, prior to more than at 300 years ago, there wasn't really such thing as a country. There wasn't any what's called nationalism. There weren't solid borders per se. You just had kind of regions, and you didn't have the technology to create borders. You didn't have the map. You had maps, but you didn't have the detail that became available with different tools in surveying. And so in most of Asia, like Turkey, you had tribes, let's call it, or groups. You had Turks, you had Kazakhs, you had Uzbeks, you had all sorts of different nomadic groups, sometimes nomadic, sometimes they all did all sorts of various different things. And many of them, especially in the steppe of Asia, like in Kazakhstan, Mongolia, lived and died on the horse, much like Native Americans in the United States, and much like most of the people across the globe. And if you didn't know, Mongolians are still the people who had the largest and longest living empire. Like something that spanned hundreds of years. I don't remember exactly how many hundreds of years, but if you look it up, it's a reality. And Mongolians then, and still to this day, are very avid horsemen and horsewomen. They love the horse. They live by the horse. For them, they have old school sayings of, you're not a man if you're not riding a horse. Or that's not really how it goes. It's like how in the United States you have a dog as man's best friend. they would take horse like much bigger sires, like height, like you are only half a man if you don't have a horse. That's sort of the level of how important having a horse and being with horses and not only how important it is to be with them, but how important it is to their livelihood to have a horse in their life. There we go. So I'd like you to go if you're American, or if not, or if, because I've met plenty of people that are not from the United States that could say all of the United States presidents much better than I could, which blows my mind. Go through the list of the United States presidents and see which ones rode horses. If they're proficient horse riders, like you can tell someone liked horses, especially like these sort of famous people, because the ones that really liked horses didn't like to be depicted, in a painting or in a statue standing. They were like, if I'm in a painting, if I'm in a statue, I'm on a horse. Okay. So you can do this with any leaders throughout any country, and look at how they ruled and what they were like, and then look at whether or not they were an avid horse person. You can even do women like Joan of Arc. That might be a bad example, depending on your point of view, of whether or not she killed good or bad people, or it's a good example, whatever. But what I'd really like you to look at that, because let's just do this. We're going to actually go through it. We're going to have the longest episode of the whatever this show is called. The most interesting news in the world. There we go. Obviously, you can tell I get very prepared for the show. Long stuff. Lots of really amazing reading, I am sure. Oh, I thought I was at, this is not the article I was looking for. Okay. So I will read some of it. The sequence of the stables. The primacy of the horse at the White House, this is in the United States, ended in 1909 when President William Howard Taft converted the carriage room into a garage for his giant steam-powered cars. The Taft family cow, Pauline Wayne, remained the sole inhabitant of the stable until the structure was razed, which is destroyed, in 1911. Horses remained available to the White House at nearby Army stables for recreational riding into the late 20th century. It was not until 1951 that Congress struck an expenditure from the White House budget for horses and stables. The various executive stables that were built on the White House grounds over a period of a century were never intended to be great architecture. Public blah, 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 blah. President Andrew Jackson, a passionate horseman, stabled not only workhorses at the White House, but also thoroughbreds that raced at courses in Washington and Baltimore. His horses so overflowed the Monroe stable that wooden shanties had to be built for further housing along the west fence of the grounds. Eventually, Jackson persuaded Congress to fund the construction of a freestanding, neoclassical brick stable trimmed with aqueous sandstone about 100 yards east of the east wing of the White House. Washington builder, details. So, okay, I didn't find the article I was hoping to find, but it does start with a illustration of Major General Andrew Jackson standing with his horse. Um, so after you go through and you look at all the leaders that you maybe think that you're interested in looking at, and looking at whether or not they rode horses and whether or not they were avid horsemen or very good at it, maybe you get a sense of the different type of character that they have. Now, I would even say personally that I've been riding horses that for like I've been riding horses regularly for almost 10 years, and I'm getting closer than to being much more confident in saying that I am an avid horseman. I'm still feel like a beginner. Um, but I said that about a lot of things that I did for a very long time until I realized that I was actually really freaking good. So I'm probably a lot better than I think I am. Um, am I as good as I would like to be? No, but that's pretty much the case with anything I do. So, why am I talking about this? Well, mostly because as a conscious horse, conscious rider, facilitator, I can perceive and see exactly how horses can contribute to people and how they can, just like your pet, like your dog or your cat or anything, like how much do you love that animal? How much does it contribute to your life? Cool. I'm glad you got a sense of that. You're all like, oh my God, I love my animal. It's so amazing. Yes, it is. And horses aren't just like a whole other level. It's not just horses themselves, it's also learning to ride a horse. It's a very different thing. Is pretty much what it's like, is pretty much what it comes down to. And so you have to be an entirely different person if you're going to be a great writer. Yeah. So everything that is for everybody and everything that doesn't allow you to perceive, know, be, and receive all the lifetimes in which you were a great writer, will you destroy and uncreate at all times a gazillion? Wow, that was cool. Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, pop, all nine, shorts, boys, poveds, and beyonds. And everything that doesn't allow you to know everything you knew about horses in those lifetimes. Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, pop, all nine, shorts, boys, poveds, and beyonds. Awesome. Yeah. Some of you just went, wait, what? But I didn't even believe in past lifetimes. Sorry. Sorry. Cool. So if you're interested, go out there, spend some time with horses. You'll have a different sense of everything. Because great horsemen and horsewomen are better at, let's call it, let's use um modern a modern saying per se in order to sort of display it, which would be they are keep their cool under pressure better than anybody. Yep. Because if you can't keep your cool when the horse is freaking out, you get kicked off the horse. And if you can keep your cool when you're on the horse stays cool. So the cooler you are, the cooler the horse is. And with great horsemen and horsewomen, that permeates into the rest of their lives in the world. When the cooler they are, the cooler everyone else is around them. I like that. I'm going to coin that. That's a meme, baby. All right. That's my pitch on looking at the presidents of past, the presidents of now, and possibilities for presidents in the future. And my next pitch is just going to be about monsters and miracles, money and profit. Now, again, I'm going to stick with horses. Horses throughout time have been a sign of nobility. Now, at one point in time, in some places, nobility became something that was looked down upon. Like it's bad to be a noble person. Like those noble people, they were the reason they stole all the money and and that's bad. Actually, the original definition of the word noble is to know. Wow. Wow. And when you've got a horse, you discover that you've got to be willing to have more money. Now, and more profit. And as Dr. Dane put it, profit in the recent 15 billion that he just did. He's got a telecall that he does twice a month called 15 billion. It's $50 a month if you want to join. And you're like, this sounds like you're selling it. I'm just letting you know what it is. I guess I don't know how much a Coke costs where you live, but if you want to know about it and you want to go, I highly suggest it. He mentioned that profit is actually your willingness and ability and what you actually create in the world, how that actually goes out into the world. That's your profit. So horses are a huge invitation because number one, they are not cheap. You got to pay to have their feet taken care of. You got to pay to have them fed. You've got to pay to put them somewhere. And if they get sick, then you got to pay to put them somewhere with that. They just require a lot of money to be taken care of. And they don't see any reason they shouldn't be taken care of very well. So get to making money and buying some horses. They're great. That's my pitch on this month for not even this month, this week. Look at that. I'm like a horse again. You got me all talking about horses. Now I can't even think straight. This week on the most interesting news in the world. That's it. That's all, my friends. Once again, Monsters of Miracles, Money and Profit. That starts on the 16th of September. And the helping the election of the president, that's on the 17th. So just this weekend, right around the corner. If you've got the time, if you've got the money, and if you don't, just ask. Hope to see you next week on the most interesting news in the world. Maybe I'll have some more information on this whole presidents and horsemen shenanigans. Until then, I'm Connor Hill, signing off.